Good morning and welcome to the Crafty Canary for your tip on Tuesday. Today we are going to talk about how to stir almond butter without making too much of a mess and how to keep it from separating quite so much as you store it. As you know, almond butter separates, the oil rises to the top. So when you open a new jar, you have to stir it and get all of that oil mixed in so that your almond butter is not too dry. But I have learned that if you store it upside down, then it will help not make such a mess. Now, I do have on an apron. I have on one of the Crafty Canary aprons made from Rifle Paper Company fabric, which you can find on my website at thecraftycanary.com. But I have it on because there's no foolproof way to do this without some mess, and you possibly could get some on your clothes, and this is oil we're talking about, so it'd be really difficult to get out of good clothes. So we want to be sure to wear an apron. I have my almond butter. This is a new jar, and it's been upside down in my pantry since I bought it. I have a plate and a butter knife, and I'm going to stir it with a butter knife in order to help keep it from making such a mess. With this being long and straight, it should do a little bit better than a spoon. Now, I want to warn you a little bit that if you are doing this, if you're using almond butter in order to avoid sugar, be careful not to get the no stir almond butter. They do make no stir almond butter. I have found that it actually has sugar. And I don't know if sugar is some ingredient that helps it to be less separating or something, but when you buy no stir, you're supposed to not to have to stir it as much, and you can store it in the pantry once it's been opened rather than in the refrigerator. Those are two positives, but if you're trying to avoid sugar like I am, the reason I started eating almond butter, it was a good snack with an apple that gave me a little bit of sweetness, that wasn't any kind of added refined sugar. So be careful if you're trying to avoid sugar not to buy the no stir. And really to that point, I have not found that the no stir are no stir. They still separate and you still make a little bit of a mess when you start it out. So we're going to use our not no stir almond butter, our just regular almond butter with no sugar, and see if we can make a little bit less of a mess when we stir this. So I'm going to try to give you a little bit better, closer view of what I'm doing so that you can see. Now I'm going to turn this right side up and take the lid, and then of course there's going to be a sealed thing on the top that we're going to need to take off. And you see that it's a little separated. I don't know if you can see that or not. There is some oil sitting on the top, but I believe it's much less than if I had not had it upside down. Now, I notice I've already dripped some oil on the plate back here that's kind of touching the outside of the bottle, so I'm going to have to clean that when I get done. But I'm just going to kind of scrape off the sides, what's gotten onto the sides, and then go down in there and stir it pretty well. Now, again, this is really full, so we're not going to be able to do this completely without a little bit of mess because it's so full that that oil wants to just go over the side. So I already saw some go over the side. So when I'm done with my stirring, I'm going to have to clean off the edges a little bit. Now, I'm trying to get all the way to the bottom so that that oil can distribute pretty evenly, so that when I use my almond butter throughout the time I have this bottle or this jar, it's going to be well distributed, and I may not have to stir it quite as much every single time that I get it out. All right, see, now that did not take very long, and I really firmly believe it's because I had it upside down in the pantry. So that's my biggest tip, is store it upside down in the pantry. So now what we're gonna do, try to get all of that off. I'm gonna put the lid back on, and I'm gonna take a wet paper towel and just wipe the edges for any of the oil that might have dripped, so it's not in my refrigerator with oil on the sides. So here we have a wet paper towel, just making sure that I get any oil off that might have dripped. And that doesn't look too bad. I might not have even gotten any on there. I might have just thought I did. And now for a dry one, just to dry it off. So now what I'm going to do is store it in the refrigerator. But again, I'm going to store it upside down. Sorry, you get to see into my messy refrigerator. But Next time I open it up, it will not be as separated, and I will do kind of the same thing. I'll put it on a plate, stir it with a knife, and be really careful wearing my apron to make sure I don't make a mess. And it should not separate quite as much because we were able to get it really stirred up that first time because we left it in the pantry upside down after we bought it. So I hope that tip has helped. I hope you have a great week. Let me know of any tips you might like to see in the future in the comments, and please subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much. See you next time.